and welcome back to this I-24 News Evening Edition. I'm Lucy Arish, and this is the Daily Debate. The Israeli population is turned over the government's decision to release another 26 Palestinian prisoners this week as part of Israel's commitment to order the relaunch divert negotiations with the Palestinians. 28 prisoners were released earlier this year, and Israel has agreed to release 104 prisoners in total, most of whom have been involved in terror attacks against Israel civilians. And joining me tonight to discuss this burning issue again is Calev Mayers, founder of the Jerusalem Institute of Justice. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming. And Yariv Oppenheimer, Director in General for Peace Now. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So, do you think that Israel should continue this policy of releasing prisoners for the Palestinians for the peace process?
First of all, my first priority wasn't release of prisoners. There was an option for Israel to stop and to freeze settlements activity as a condition to start the negotiation. By the way, Israel also claimed the Palestinian things, and it wasn't just for free. Israel agreed to get into the negotiation, but in return, Israel demanded from the Palestinians to stop the process of the recognition of the Palestinian state in the UN. And the Palestinians agree, and we remember the last UN assembly in New York City was without any continue of the move of the Palestinians to promote their unilateral steps in the international community. So both sides decide that there are some preconditions to get into the negotiation. Unfortunately, the Israeli government decided not to freeze settlements activity, and the Palestinians agree for that, but the only condition was at least that we will be able to show our people that we can deliver something in return of the will for peace. Please release prisoners that, by the way, they are not sitting in jail for 1 or 2 days, but they are there for 20 and 30 years.
Calev.
I think that it's a terrible mistake to release prisoners. And I'm absolutely shocked that we've received pressure from the United States to do so, because according to United States law, you never release convicted security prisoners, certainly not in a political negotiation. But what we've done is we've released people with blood on their hands, terrorists, convicted terrorists in our courts. This isn't only a danger to the citizens of Israel, it's also a danger to our democratic process and to separation of powers. The judicial branch made a decision to convict a criminal based on laws made by the legislative branch. The executive branch comes and trumps everybody and says, it doesn't matter, we're going to release these prisoners, which I think is a big problem. Now, if we actually are receiving something for the damage we've done both to our security and our democratic system, then I think maybe there's something to talk about. Yariv mentioned the fact that we could have perhaps froze settlements instead of releasing prisoners. Even though I don't think that freezing settlements is a very good idea, at least freezing settlements is a revocable process. If I freeze settlements today, I can unfreeze them tomorrow. But as soon as I release a prisoner, a dangerous prisoner with blood on his hands, there's no going back. And it's a historical fact that every single time we've released prisoners in any political deal we've done with the Palestinians, a good portion of them had ended up back in prison. Already from the ones that were released in the Shalit deal, 30 of them have already been convicted for violent crimes and have made their way back to prison. And according to our intelligence services, hundreds of them are still on the way. And so I think it's an absolutely terrible idea.
Maybe Calev and I live in a different country, because as I understand, from after the Shalit agreement, and the Shalit agreement was not my best scenario. You know, when you are releasing prisoners in return for Israeli soldier, what is your message to the Palestinian? If you want to get your prisoners back, continue to kidnap soldiers.
Right.
But what we are saying
to the United States doesn't.
But what we are saying today to the Palestinians is very clear. We are ready for peace, and if you are coming with peace initiative, if you are stopping violence, if you are stopping terror, and you are coming to discuss with us, you will be able to gain more than Hamas. If we will adopt your policy, so the message to the Palestinian will be very clear. Israel is not ready to do anything unless you are going to act with violence and force on Israel and on the Israeli public. And the only way to get the prisoners out is to kidnap the Israeli soldier. I think this is a very wrong message. I think that the best message should be, Israel is ready to give the Palestinian the way to live their own life, to get their own state. And on the way, Israel is ready to make a very painful things, including things that will be painful for all of us, including myself, of releasing prisoners.
But at least in the Shalit deal, we gained something. We gained something very precious, the release of Gilad Shalit.
We are gaining here.
Here we haven't gained anything. A week after, or a week before, we're talking about releasing another batch of prisoners. Abu Mazen sent a letter to 50 heads of states throughout the world, calling on them to boycott Israel. So we made this act of goodwill towards the Palestinian Authority, but they're continuing to do their delegitimizing campaign
and every day that
against us while we're at the table
we are releasing
negotiating
prisoners, we are also giving away tenders to build in the settlements and actually giving the settlers more benefits at the same day that we are releasing prisoners, and it's going to be the same tomorrow as well. So I think that both sides are doing many mistakes and they are not really coming cheerful for the negotiation. Still, we got a lot from these prisoners released. First of all, unfortunately, in my point of view, we got the understanding of the Palestinians that there will not be a settlements freeze. Second, we got the negotiation. And the fact that we are today in negotiations stopped the pressure from the international community. Europeans suddenly stopped this, making decision about boycotting Israel or boycotting settlements. There is much better environment for Israeli PR and advocacy work. So I think we got a lot. But I think that eventually...
I think there's a major basis with even comparing the building and settlements to the release of security prisoners, convicted terrorists with blood on their hands.
This was the demand of the right wing in the government.
Land cannot be more important than the blood of innocent Israelis.
Tell it to the right-wing representative. Tell it to Naftali Bennett. Tell it to the right-wing ministers in the government that said that under these circumstances, if there will be freeze of settlements, they are going to withdraw from the coalition. If there will be release of prisoners, they are ready to eat the frog and to stay in the government. So
Naftali
in many
Bennett
ways,
and his friends in the
this
Israeli
is the
government
policy
would like
of the
to
right
continue
wing.
building in the territories, but
You cannot win everything. You cannot win
terrorists. They're not terrorists who intend to take the life of innocent Palestinians. It's a completely immoral comparison.
You know, you mentioned the United States, and you said that in the United States, when you are a terrorist, you don't get this privilege to be released from prison. But we know that here, the Middle East is a kind of different situation. We've been in this battle between the Palestinians and Israel for the last 65 years. We know that's one of the major conditions from the Palestinians is the release of prisoners, if not to freeze the settlements, the building in the settlements. You don't think that in favor, or for us to get a step ahead with this negotiation, this is something that the Israeli society should pay? This is a price that the Israeli society should pay?
I don't think we should make any concessions to Palestinians before we negotiate with them. One of the major arguments for releasing these prisoners is that we have to build legitimacy for Mahmoud Abbas, because he has to come to the table with something so that he has a mandate from the Palestinian people to represent the Palestinian people to make concessions towards Israel. But I think we're completely missing the target. The reason that Mahmoud Abbas is not a legitimate leader is because he's corrupt and he's unpopular in the Palestinian Authority. The Hamas came to power in the last election partially because of an objection vote, not just because of an ideological vote, because of all the money, the international money that's disappeared into the Palestinian Authority.
But this is the leader that you have to negotiate with.
Okay, but releasing prisoners is not going to make Mahmoud Abbas a less corrupt person or return the stolen money to the Palestinian people. So really, we've gained nothing.
I would say to Calev, just imagine what will be the response of the world, the international community, and the Palestinian people. If Israel will demand from the Palestinians to stop all the move that they are doing in the UN, to do a lot of things in order to create an environment for negotiation, but Israel will not ready to give any way in return, nothing. We are going to continue to build in the settlements. We are not going to release any prisoners. What will be the effect on the Palestinian people? What will be the chance to relaunch the negotiation? Zero. We are going to give these prisoners the ability to stop the peace process again and to stop, you know what, not even a peace process, but some kind of normalization situation between us and the Palestinians. I think that this will be a price to terror. The best way to fight terror is eventually to fight the reason for the terror, and the reason for the terror is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And if we can find a way to give it a chance and to at least to find a solution, but not a solution even to start a process, I think this is the Israeli interest. By the way, even for the right-wing people that are disagree with the idea of the Palestinian state, the process is good for them, because the process, the peace process, even if it's got nothing to offer at the end, at least can take down the pressure on Israel from the world.
I'm not saying don't continue in a peace process, but I'm completely amazed that in some way you found an argument to say that releasing convicted terrorists will somehow help to fight terrorism. Well, the convicted terrorists don't become less ideological engaged after 30 years. If anything, they become more embittered against the state of Israel.
I will be the last person to defend people that killed innocent people, and there is no way to defend it.
But you're happy we're releasing them?
No, I'm not happy. I think that this is a painful thing. If it's up to me, I will not release them, but I will freeze settlements activity. But I think that still, when I saw the first wave of Palestinian prisoners, they didn't come out as winners. They came out as old people, much older, saying in Hebrew that they are against terror. What was in the past is different, and now they are looking for peace.
I saw celebrations in the street. I saw the Palestinian people
much more moderate than in
to
Hamas.
Celebrating people who murdered Israelis in cold blood.
Unlike the deal with Hamas, that this was a victory for Hamas, and Hamas can show that kidnapped soldiers is the way to get success. And the prisoners came out very proud of what they did in the past. This time it was a different story. The prisoner that went out of jail did it after 30 and sometimes even more years, so they did some time, not maybe the best, but they did a lot of years. There are many Israeli people that killed and murdered people, and they stayed in jail less time than the prisoners that we see. And eventually the message of them, and it was a bit encouraging, was we are in favor of peace, let's solve this conflict.
Yariv, let me take this side of the table now, because I took your side of the table, and now I'm taking this side of the table. And let's think about what Calev is saying. Calev is saying basically that why should Israel release people? Why should Israel do business or start a negotiation with a corrupted leadership, a leadership that doesn't do anything for its people, a leadership that actually always, in every single case, maybe, let's put the blame for a minute now on the Palestinians, always taking one step ahead and 10 steps back. So why should Israel actually try to even think about what is good for them before it's thinking about what is good for her?
First of all, when we read the Israeli press and the newspaper every morning, you can think that the Israeli leadership is corrupt. We can see corruption everywhere, and I don't think that the Palestinian Authority now is corrupt in an extreme way.
Yeah, this is a different kind of corruption. This is a different kind of corruption, because this is corruption saying they're taking the money and actually blaming Israel for the occupation, which is in some allegations okay.
The difference is Israel puts its corrupt leaders in jail. We had an Arab judge on our district court that sent our Jewish president to sit in jail for crimes that he committed. Nobody is holding the Palestinian leadership to account.
I'm very happy that you so care for the Palestinian leadership and the Palestinian people. Israel has to make peace with the Palestinian, or at least to solve the conflict, or at least to pull out from the West Bank. This is what we have. And I remember when Arafat was in power, everyone said that he is corrupt, and everyone said that he is a terrorist, because in some of the time he was corrupt, and in some of the time he did promote terrorism against Israel. Today we have a leadership that is eventually change the rule of the game. Maybe it's not the best, but it's getting there. And second, this leadership is talking about peace, is talking against violence. It's not just
especially
talking,
when they speak in English.
But also in English, but also deliver. We don't see any major attack coming from the Palestinian, an organizing attack against Israelis. So this leadership, unlike the previous one, deliver peace and security for itself and for Israel. This is huge. So what we should do? Just to ignore it and to say they are corrupt, they are not perfect, they are not Zionists, we are not going to deal with them. So who we are waiting for? For Hamas, for Al-Qaeda? This current Palestinian leadership is the best chance that we had in the last few years. We should not just ignore it and say corrupt, their English is not good enough, so we are not going to speak with them.
We shouldn't bury our head in the sand and refuse to recognize who we're actually dealing with. The reason that violence went down from the Palestinian territories into Israel is because we built a fence. from 2002 to 2009.
No, this is not true. Even the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, gave credit for the Palestinian Authority, saying that both sides are working together against terror. And if you think that it's only defense, this is a really illusion.
The truth of the fact is that our security forces are preventing terrorist attacks on Israel on an ongoing basis.
With the assistance of the Palestinian authorities. By the way, in the time that there wasn't a Palestinian Authority and the Israeli soldiers were inside of each Palestinian city, we had much less security than in the last 7 or 8 years.
Gentlemen,
but people that don't want peace, they will always find excuse why not to deal with that.
We will continue this outside because we have to get out for a small break, 10 minutes break for our update from the news desk. Calev Mayers and Yariv Oppenheimer, thank you very much for coming to our studio. 10 minutes break, an update from our news desk, and then we're back for the I-24 News one-on-one. Don't go anywhere.